let's talk about these Denver Broncos.
Let's do it.
They hired Sean Payton.
We did.
You traded a 2023 first-round pick. Something else he was wrong about, Dehls.
No.
We had a big debate about that.
I think it was like a 2-minute debate.
No, it was like a 10-minute debate about if it's just going to go for a first-round pick. We go back, look at the receipts, buddy. Let's do it.
I'm glad you got that W.
Oh, yeah. It was easy, though.
Bro's taking a W with Sean Payton trade.
2024 second-rounder to the Saints for Sean Payton and 2024 third-rounder.
Yep.
Now, we signed a 5-year deal through 2027, about $18 million annually. Now, what do you think about this, Drew? Because you wanted Sean Payton. You need somebody to fix Russell Wilson. Who knows if it's going to be him? So what are your thoughts on Sean Payton?
So, I'm sure everyone's been waiting on this. We were supposed to have this last week, and we decided to clip it, but now we're talking about it now. My Christmas wish list was to have Sean Payton join the Denver Broncos, and there was a point in time where I wasn't even overly confident that this would happen. But apparently it was never in doubt. The way that they've been in constant communication, Sean Payton said that the Broncos were one of the few teams that he was interested in coming to and the most interested team to come to. For us to acquire Sean Payton, who, of course, did have Drew Brees for a majority of his career and did lead his team to having the number one passing offense 6 times, to be number one in total yards 6 times, Sean Payton is an amazing head coach. And, of course, in the past, I had been a little critical of Sean Payton for the fact that he did have Drew Brees as his quarterback, and I put it more on Drew Brees than him. Then the year after, what does he do without Drew Brees? Goes 9-8 when Ian Book comes in at times to be the quarterback, and you still have an over 500 record. And then he decides to take the year off. So now, of course, as a Denver Bronco fan who just witnessed one of the more unfortunate seasons as a fan where we had expectations and we did not live up to them, not even anywhere near close to that, to now get Sean Payton, who's going to hold everyone on this team accountable, more importantly, Russell Wilson, and why people were trying to make a huge deal out of Sean Payton saying that no extra coaches from the outside will be in our building working with players. In terms of, we're talking about Russell Wilson and the guys that he brings from outside to work with him and his quarterback coaches. He said that that's foreign to him. And why I'm 100% okay with that is because Russ is new to the Broncos. I understand we're going into year 2, but Russ is new. And it seemed as if people got the, as I spit all over the place, I apologize. People got the impression that Russell is this bigger-than-life personality, and that's kind of how he carries himself, that the world revolves around him. And I'm happy that we're bringing in a head coach to bring Russell back to reality of what is at the forefront, playing quarterback for the Denver Broncos. And what Sean Payton is going to do is primarily hone in on trying to fix Russ's mistakes. And we brought in the best guy to do so because, again, the most important thing is accountability. And what Sean Payton's track record has shown for a laundry list of seasons is that he can do so. I understand that it's Drew Brees. And, of course, Drew Brees is one of the all-time great quarterbacks this game's ever seen. But so is Russell Wilson. And I understand we just saw his worst season yet, but I have no doubt in my mind that with Sean Payton, he will have a bounce-back year. With Sean Payton, we should be back to the expectations that we had last season. I'm not going to go the whole way of the way that I was chatting, AFC Championship, Super Bowl, but at the minimum, we should be in that conversation to make the Super Bowl because we still have a great talented defense. I'm sorry, I meant playoffs.
Okay.
I meant playoffs.
I was say, hold on, let's run this back.
Freudian slip, because you know what I want.
Yes.
You know what I want. I want the Lombardi. But, of course, the goal has to be to get to the playoffs, and I think that should be our expectation. Be a playoff team. We have a great defense. We have great talent on the defensive side. We have good offensive personnel. I want to see us bring in more O-linemen this offseason. But again, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy showed that when he is the X factor, the X of the offense, that he can be wildly successful. Now with Sean Payton, now KJ Hamler becomes intriguing to me. Javonte Williams now coming back from injury. There is conversation that Saquon Barkley may not be a New York Giant. Maybe we go and we make a splash at Saquon Barkley. That's me being a fan and, of course, being optimistic. But you speak anything to existence, who knows? But I'm very optimistic, of course. But this was a great move and something that Broncos fans needed. We needed some excitement after a complete disappointment of the season. Now we have Sean Payton, and now it seems like back-to-back seasons, depending on what happens with Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers, that the Broncos 2 seasons in a row have had the biggest splash move of the offseason.
Now, I think Russell Wilson will have a bounce-back season, but not in the way of people are thinking he is. I don't think he's an elite quarterback anymore, and that showed last year. Now, I know that people want to put the blame on Hackett. I thought the biggest problem with the Broncos last season was Russell Wilson. And Nathaniel Hackett deserves some blame for his coaching and clock management. But in terms of calling plays, I thought he was one of the better play callers. And Russell Wilson, he designed a lot of plays that he put on the onus of Russell Wilson to make, and Russell Wilson just wasn't able to read the field all that well. The good news about that is that Sean Payton has succeeded with a variety of different quarterbacks. Drew Brees in the later parts of his years, his last 2 seasons, Drew Brees was noticeably washed. I thought he was noticeably washed.
Why you got to use that word?
I just thought he was. I'm sorry. I thought he was noticeably bad.
Last year, especially.
Yeah, but guess what? If ask me how many touchdowns he had that last season with the Saints.
24.
So how many interceptions?
8.
Drew Brees, his last season, had, I'm trying to find
I
it.
thought you nailed that.
Maybe.
He did nail it. I know he did nail it. Yeah.
Emmy.
Oh.
So Drew Brees had 24 touchdowns and 6 interceptions last
all
season.
right.
The year before,
Noticeably washed.
the year before, it was 27-4. And
No, he
that's
washed,
the thing.
though,
If
but-
he couldn't throw the ball past 10
Now, he
yards.
knows- He was washed.
He
He watched
declined.
him,
Yeah. Noticeably washed is crazy.
It showed itself in the playoffs. He was noticeably
no,
washed.
against the Bucks, definitely.
Like, he
looked a
couldn't
little
throw down the
overmatched.
field
He
anymore.
could not. He
I
could not.
thought, even though that's what I'm saying, though, Sean Payton is so good that a washed quarterback had these stats. It's kind of like what McDaniel did with Tua. That's what I'm saying. Like, these
washed.
coaches. Well, I don't know if he's got it started yet. He hasn't been put in the laundry yet.
He hasn't been putting the laundry. Is funny.
Russ has never been a pure pocket passer. Drew Brees was. That's what he has working to his disadvantage. But you look at how he succeeded with Teddy Bridgewater. When Drew Brees got hurt, Teddy Bridgewater went 5-0. He had a 100+ passer rating. Teddy Bridgewater's not been able to replicate that success ever. And then the first year when Drew Brees retired and Jameis Winston was there, I mean, Jameis was playing great until he went down with injury. Part of the reason why is because, and Sean Payton talked about it in his presser for the Broncos, is that he adapts. He tailors his offense to the strengths of the quarterbacks. He said what he was going to do to the Broncos. Cut up of all Russ's plays past 30 yards or more. Russ was great off the naked boot in Seattle, and film of his red zone touchdowns inside the 20. So Sean Payton is going to cater this offense to what Russ does, and it's going to be kind of training wheels offense. You know, I think Russ will play well, and it's good that the offensive line's going to get healthy. Javonte, Tim Patrick's healthy, so you'll have some weapons there. You have an elite defense, but ultimately, I think that Russ is not going to be that same elite level quarterback, but he'll have a bounce back season because Sean Payton is not going to call a game for him that he doesn't feel comfortable in him executing.
Home run higher for the Broncos. Right before this was happening, it seemed like who are we talking about? Shane Steichen. That was going to be our guy, right?
It wasn't
Or our
looking
guy.
good.
It's going to be Drew's
Our
guy
guy's
because
You could say our.
okay,
Bros.
I'll respect that. It was getting ugly if you're a Broncos fan because you had all of this hype. You had Harbaugh from Michigan. You had Sean Payton. You had all these guys that have this big name value who'd also bring just an offensive mind and overall a better culture to the organization than what Hackett did. Obviously, being one of the bigger failures as a head coach in the last few seasons. Things get quiet for a little bit. Sean Payton goes on TV, says there's a 70% chance of coming back to Fox. And then all of a sudden he comes back and he's the head coach of the Denver Broncos. It really seemed like a miracle when I got that notification on my phone that was going to happen. Getting a first-round pick. I also think it's not really being talked about a lot, but the fact that you gave up the Niners' first-round pick instead of your pick in 2024, because if I'm the Saints, I would much rather have that 2024 first than the 29th overall pick. That's what San Fran was this past season. I'll take my bet that the Broncos aren't going to have that pick next year, especially in a quarterback class that's better than 2023. But Sean Payton, not only is this good for Russell Wilson, but if things don't work out with Russ, he could make it work with another quarterback. I understand that Russ has the huge contract and you're obviously tied for him financially, but in a year from now, 2 years from now, like, can you go get somebody on a not huge contract, or can you go draft a rookie if you're drafting around the 14th, 15th pick? I understand everyone's focused on Russell Wilson. You should be. Priority number one is fixing him and trying to get him back to his Seattle days. But I also don't think that should be the end goal here. I don't think if you're a Broncos fan, you should be looking at it saying, Sean Payton has to come in and fix Russell Wilson. I want him to be here for after Russell Wilson.
That's the only thing I'm thinking,
I understand that, but I want him here after Russell Wilson, or if things don't work out for Russ, because I kind of agree with Joel. I don't think Russ is going to be back to that top 5-6 level of quarterback Part of that is because of a decline in play, but also the other quarterbacks that are great that weren't here a couple of years ago. Joe Burrow wasn't in that conversation Russ's last elite year. Josh Allen was definitely starting to enter it. Lamar is there. We have Jalen Hurts now. We just have a lot of guys entering that conversation of being deservedly in that top 5, 6, 7. Russ, the combination of him declining isn't great for him being a top 5 guy. Herbert, too, was not someone in that conversation. And then you look at the division with the Chiefs and with the Chargers having elite quarterbacks already. This puts you on par, at least with coaching with Andy Reid. The quarterback play is still obviously a bit behind everyone in that division outside of the Raiders, depending on what they do. But I think if I'm the Broncos fan, not only is this good for Russell Wilson, but I know if I have to draft a rookie, get a Jimmy G type of guy, if Russ really fails, I know I have the perfect head coach to make the offense work.
I think this is interesting. You guys talked a lot about Sean Payton and fixing the Russell Wilson. And I think, well, for starters, great move. Duh.
Thanks, man.
You're getting a top 5 coach in the league. You know, he's one of the best to do it. So shout out to Sean Payton. He has a lot of work to do, you know, but they got weapons on the outside. They got weapons in the running back room. And they have Russell Wilson, who I think will still be a serviceable quarterback. You know, he can still be top 10, top 15. But I think it's interesting that you guys didn't touch on the landscape of the AFC. And I think that is just as important as getting Sean Payton. I mean, you got, you know, just to start off, you still got the Chiefs that are going to be here. You still got the Chargers. That's in your division. Not really worried about the Raiders at the moment. But then you go over, you got the Ravens so far right now until Lamar decides somewhere else.